Well, hello everybody. My name is, of course, Brian Downing from quantlabs.net. Just wanted to do an introductory to the video of Above and Beyond Python with FSharp in finance and trading. Now, this video is about just under an hour. It is put on by Phil Trelford from London, UK, who's running one of the biggest meetups for this type of work and technical in the UK. So what you're about to see is why I'm pretty well getting sold on FSharp. Of any language I've seen out there, this thing out of box is ready to go talking to anything nice and easily. And also with what I've just seen recently, especially in this video, really convinces me if you want to deploy this language across all different operating systems. So I'm going to shut up now and I'm going to introduce this video with Phil Trelford for our playback on Above and Beyond Python with FSharp in the world of trading and finance. So hopefully you enjoy it. Have a good one. Talk to you later. Hey everybody, it's Brian here from quantlabs.net. We got Phil on board with a little bit of audio. He can't hear us, but we can hear him. So we're gonna get started. Let's get underway. And here I just gotta type the message to Phil. Okay, hang on here. So go ahead, Phil.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Welcome everybody to thank you to the talk today. It's midnight in the UK where I'm speaking from at the moment, so it's nice and quiet around me. So today I'd like to talk about FSharp for trading and finance. I'm a developer at a company called Simcore in London. I've been working in the financial domain with FSharp commercially for about 8 years now. And I want to show you over the course of some slides and some live code samples what FSharp can do for you. So just into the first slide, the user group I help run in the UK is called the Functional Londoners. We've been running for 4 years now, and we have over 800 members. We have a meetup every 2 weeks, and it's one of the largest .NET based user groups in the UK, and probably the most active. We also have our own annual conference, and we're going to do 2 annual conferences starting next year. The majority of the audience is finance based originally, but we're extending out into other areas now. We do a lot of talks on machine learning, functional programming, and there's a lot of interest in GPU, OpenCL, LLVM, JavaScript, that kind of thing. London's not the only story really for FSharp. We've got user groups spread out across the globe. Here's a picture with some of them. There's big concentrations around financial centres: London, New York, Tokyo, also San Francisco. Big concentrations in Europe and the US. So there's possibly a user group nearby you. I believe there's one in Toronto. So if you're interested, there's plenty of people around. So yeah, Brian's just said he runs the .NET meetup group in Toronto. That's excellent. So sticking on the finance theme, we're seeing FSharp in finance really across all sectors. One of the earliest adopters was investment banks back in around 2007, but we've got large utilities like E.ON in the UK, hedge funds, property shops, insurance companies, all sorts doing lots of FSharp. So let's kind of talk about why they're using FSharp. Now, that early adoption was spiked by, we think, 4 different areas that people are wanting to use FSharp for: to get faster time to market, efficiency, so high performance, correctness, less mistakes, and to solve really complex problems. And the picture on the right there is a little bit of a comical one. That's my ideal picture for a book. So taking time to market first, an example is a company called GameSys, and they've gone from months to produce gambling engines down to days with FSharp. So coming from C# to FSharp, which is pretty huge, and as they say, orders of magnitude increasing in productivity. Efficiency-wise, people are seeing great performance across the board, and we'll look at this later on, but here's a quote from Handelsbanken in Sweden. Looking at correctness, we're seeing people finding virtually bug-free code. I think the thing that I find when I'm coding F# is when I run it, I expect it to just work. Now, when I'm using other languages, that's not often the thing that happens. And complexity. I think typed functional first programming really helps you get to the heart of complexity much more easily, and because of the light syntax and descriptive declarative language, so you get to solve problems that you may have not done otherwise. This quote is from Byron Cook, who has actually got a prover written in F#, which is used for all of the Microsoft device drivers, and it actually checks if they'll halt or not. And reliability in the Windows device drivers has gone up hugely since then. So it actually goes over C programs and checks for terminations. So, got a bit of talk about why people are using it. Let's have a little play and see how things are going. So, switching screens, I'm hoping it's going to work. Let me know if you can see Visual Studio. So what I've done to show you, all good, great. To show you a demo here is just put together a tiny script file, and I've pulled down a package called FSLab, and that's pretty much it. Now what I want to show you first is something called F# type providers. Now type providers basically put the world at your fingertips, access to all sorts of data, whether it be from files, databases, web, or even other languages. They're just there. So we've literally just loaded in a package. I've got a connection to the World Bank, and now I can type world dot, and I can access all of the information across all of the countries in the world that the World Bank has data for. And as I'm actually typing, it's going and pulling the data down directly from the World Bank. So it's lazily evaluating. It's not on my machine. And you can see now these are the kind of information that we have from the World Bank. So literally within a couple of keystrokes, I'm able to access huge amounts of information, which is pretty exciting. So let's see what we can do with that. So I'll just evaluate this. To evaluate, we just highlight the code, press Alt-Enter. This is in the interactive mode, which is very useful for data science analysis. You can also compile out F# code, and it compiles down just like C#. It's all statically typed, high performance code. So what I want to do is take that World Bank data, and I'm going to use something called F# charting, which is in the FSLab project, to get a comparison between the UK and France on GDP. And we'll just wait for it to pick up the data, and then we've plotted a chart of those two countries immediately. So that's pretty cool, one line of code, and we have that comparison. If I wanted to go for a bar chart, we could just do this. I'm just using a little DSL I wrote in a few lines of code to make that nice and easy. If we wanted to have a look at US versus Canadian energy related methane emissions, there we go. Or we could take a group of countries and compare there. So that's pretty cool. Or we could go per capita and just have a look at that. And a little bit occluded on the graph, but we can see that actually the UK is doing quite well in catching up with Germany on GDP per capita. France is lagging a little bit there over time. So that's nice. So literally within a few keystrokes we've managed to connect to the World Bank and chart the information. Now, saying what's happening is underneath it's going online and picking up as we walk through that graph of different properties. We have with the World Bank a provided connection there, but we can connect literally to any JSON or XML web service pretty much instantly. So I'll just have a look at the weather, and we'll have a look at weather in a city near you. Let's have a look at Montreal. So I'll get the weather, and we've got all sorts of information already pulled in here in the JSON, but there's no need for us to write a parser for that. I can just look at Montreal, and this is the information available. And if we look at Maine, we've got different temperatures, and we can just take that, push that through, and find out that it's pretty cold out in Montreal at the moment. That's about 10 degrees lower than the UK. So I guess that's kind of cool. But what we're doing in the finance domain is we want to do things like deal with fix. So I've got here a fix order in XML format. So I'll just push in an XML provider now, whereas before we were using a JSON provider, and I can get sample that XML we looked at, and again we have types over that, and it's actually inferred the types inside. So that was an integer, this one's a string. So we can go and just write against our XML sources immediately. If you have any questions, just feel free to ask as we go. So onto another type provider, CSV, very popular in data science. We're going to go and pick up some stock data from Yahoo Finance now, using the CSV provider, and that will actually give us types over that again. So now I can go and pick up stock prices. So this is a function for getting stock prices. I'll go and get MSFT, and you can see in the interactive window that's pulled down open, high, low, close prices, which is nice. Now, I showed you charting. Yeah, you can. There is a Python type provider under development, and I believe you could use that now. There's also a type provider to MATLAB. What I'm about to show you is a type provider to the R programming language. So if we just have a, it's with Python, I believe it could be either Iron Python or the full distribution. There is a Python type provider projects. I can dig that up, but I believe they can use either approach. The FSharp mechanism isn't tied to any particular, it doesn't have to be .NET. We can connect to anything. So here's R. Well, you can call Iron Python directly from FSharp. That's not a problem. But I believe you can bring in all of the Python types to FSharp without that kind of messing about. So here's R. So basically, we've got an R provider. Now, once we've pushed the R provider in, we can literally R dot, and we have got all of the R functions available to us in the FSharp interactive window. And we can interact with R, we can ask it to draw things, we can ask it to calculate something, so we can send information from FSharp to R or retrieve information from R directly. And you can see also all of the packages that you've got loaded in your R session are available for you via IntelliSense. Well, sorry, all the packages you have installed in R. So we can just have a quick run against R now. And that will bind out to an R session. And we've calculated a R diff there. But let's go and do something a bit more interesting. We'll go and get the stock tickers for a bunch of different equities. And we'll now just get a autocorrelation on MSFT. So that was nice and easy. And so it's just popping out as if it was, in effect, part of FSharp, but that's actually an R plot. And here we go. Now we can plot all of the bits that we were looking at before in the chart. So that's kind of cute. So I think this mechanism, the type providers, is a really nice approach. It's kind of saying that languages like R or Python have, or MATLAB for that matter, have these fantastic libraries for different statistical analysis or visualization. Now, typically you'd have to do them one by one, and it's very hard to call onto each other. The approach FSharp's taking is saying, why don't we just use those lovely libraries from those other ecosystems rather than trying to reinvent the world, and allow you to compose data and push them into those algorithms. And so it really just makes things a breeze to orchestrate your calculations. So that's the data side. I'm just going to, hopefully you can see that was pretty powerful. I'll just pop back out to the slides for a sec. So before I move on to the next section, I just thought I'd give you a couple of what other people have said who are using FSharp for big data tasks. So his testimonial from one of the guys at Microsoft, a machine learning expert, and he's highlighting the speed of experimentation there, which I think you can see, just the ability to use the REPL to connect to data really quickly is huge. And I think one of the advantages that you have with languages like R, Python, and FSharp is the REPL. What you actually want to do is load in, say, 10 gigabytes of data into memory and issue different queries and charting and visualizations against them. If you were to use something like C# and Java, you'd have a compile and run each time, and you'd have to reload the data, which would be awful. There's another testimonial from a bioinformatics team, and they've been moving over from Python. And they found their code to be more robust and between 20 and 100 times faster to run, which is not to be sniffed at, I'd say, for anything but the most trivial programs. They also found it faster to develop. Now, I think the thing here is that FSharp being statically typed, working in effect on the same system as C# there, with interop with C# too, is you've got your compile out and you've got a very fast JIT, so you've got a great runtime environment. And the other part for the speed of development is you have that kind of light syntax that you have with Python that just gets stuff done. But where in Python you're going to get runtime errors because you've just got a letter wrong, in FSharp it's compiled. And that means that you actually get picking up those errors at compile time, even if it's in REPL. And that's a huge win. You don't want to run that 6-hour compute and then discover that you've got a spelling mistake on the last line. That's kind of solved. But instead of having to do code generation, which is the sort of C# Java approach, we've got those lovely type providers which just work as you traverse the data. And instead of forcing you into that nasty situation of having to type everything before you go, the FSharp compiler uses type inference to infer the types for you, so you get that Python-like experience that gets stuff done that I really respect about the Python community, and R for that matter. So I'm going to move on to calculations, because we've looked at loading up data, and I'm going to also look a little bit at spreadsheets. Here's a fun set of names I picked up from a website on spreadsheet horror stories. But I think one of the big things that's happening in banking and finance is that people are finding so many issues and losing lots of money on glitches and failures and type errors in their spreadsheets, or that they're just not scaling at all. But we all love Excel, and I think we need to have something that kind of works with it. And again, FSharp fits that spot really nicely. So I'm going to first show you units of measure inside FSharp, and then we'll have a look at some Excel integration. This slide's just an example of what happens if you don't have units. That's a real sign in the US, apparently. I'm not sure if they were joking or not. So let's pop in and have a look at a little bit of code. In order to define a measure, we just simply put an annotation against it and give it a name. And we can now define a GBP euro conversion rate. And if a function to convert between euro and pounds takes in euros and multiplies out. And if we look at the function signatures, takes, as I was saying, takes in euros, returns pounds. Now it's actually inferred the types for us because it's seen that we're multiplying out the euros. So that's kind of cute. Now, if I want to convert to pounds, we can see put in the euros, get the pounds out. If I were to break this, we will get a type error, and it will tell us that we're expecting euros. So this kind of scales out to lots of statistical calculations. One of the ones that was most memorable for me was working on a true skill machine learning system, actually used in Xbox 360 games, and we had the algorithm running in production. This was pretty much every 360 game, Xbox 360 game on the market, which had a network game. And when we put the units on, we found an error. Thankfully, it was only a small error, which didn't affect the algorithm, but we were sure we had it right, and the units flushed that out. So, you're starting to see a little bit of code now. So, in effect, if we were in Python, we would just write that. We have the additional noise of the let keyword in FSharp, but other than that, you don't have to put in the types, and it does actually move up all the way to functions as well. So, talking about types, if I was to describe a trading domain, then we can very easily do that with what are in effect sum types, powerful type system from functional languages. So I can define aside as being bid or ask. Time in force, this kind of looks like an enum, but we have good till cancel, good for day. But for good till day, we can actually add a value to it, and we can have any values within our unions. And I can now simply define a limit order as a record. Now, with that, I can access this very simple type directly from C# or VB or whatnot. And this would be the equivalent of that. This line here would be one class, one file. This would be another file, and another file in C# land. So pretty short and succinct. So perhaps we can have a look at how we can scale up our type. So we've been looking, just picking up data. I'm going to show you a spreadsheet implemented in the type system with some simple functions. There's a parser here for Excel, for the Excel like language, spreadsheet language, handling references and so forth. The whole code is, let's have a look, just under 300 lines of code, and I can just run that from the interactive window. And there's a spreadsheet, and we can do normal spreadsheet operations in here, which is good. So doing the kind of spreadsheet app or a small app is incredibly easy. If we look at finding something interesting. This is in effect the abstract syntax tree for Excel here, just in a few lines of code. Now, if I want to scale that up a little bit more, I'll just pop over to an open source spreadsheet application I've written. And so go with this. Now, this is about 1,000 lines of code. Just waiting for that to start. And again, you see it's all boring spreadsheet part. But where this differs is that it actually has units of measure support. So I can do and we can divide that by seconds. Sorry, I'll just put that in as there you go. So that's kind of cute. So just sort of showing you how that was put together. quickly. Here I've got an example of some of the functions implemented, and each of the functions, simple basic functions Excel, is in fact encoded in a single line. We match over the name and values. If it's a sum, we take the values, convert them to decimals, and call sum. So really quite powerful abstractions, and something that you might consider to be quite difficult can be achieved very easily in a functional first language like FSharp. So this project actually allows you to import and export Excel files. So I think the thing that's interesting from here is that there's a project called FSharp, which lets you embed FSharp actually inside Excel, and it has a type provider that lets you access the cells directly by name in the Excel sheet or by range, and pull the data out or push the data in. And all the things that we could do with the type providers, with World Bank and so forth, are available.
And welcome to FSL 2.0.
I'll let you, the URL is fsl.io. I'll let you do that one at your own leisure. But the this is really quite powerful. You have all of that lovely type safety and easy writing of functions, way more powerful than you have with VB, all available within the Excel environment with FSharp. And we've seen people using FSL with some of the GPU libraries inside FSharp, which will compile FSharp code out to run directly on the GPU to get some pretty hardcore acceleration. Great. So I'd recommend having a look at that. Okay. So that's that slide. I actually will just show you one more thing on this. If you're interested in getting into FSharp, there's a lovely website called Try FSharp. The reason I'm going in there is I want to show you something quite fun. A lot of the cool kids are using Hadoop to do compute, and we can actually just run that in the browser or on our desktops, but we'll do it in the browser here. So I can actually load and run a program here in the browser. I have IntelliSense, like you saw I had in Visual Studio, and I can execute that, and you'll see on the other side of the screen it's actually done a plot over the iris dataset. So just endless type providers out there. Okay. So, had a look at currency conversion, simple functions. We've had a little look at FSharp embedded in Excel. Here's another little sample with a computation running to a graph, running inside Excel. We had a quick look at a little program that emulates a spreadsheet and a few hundred lines of FSharp code. I'm going to just pull in on performance. The .NET, which FSharp's running on, has some really great new features around garbage collection, specifically for financial applications. There's a low latency mode for the front end for screen, and a sustained low latency mode for financial applications. So you can really tune your your garbage collector there. Another interesting thing that's happened literally in the last few weeks is that Microsoft have open sourced much of the .NET kernel, and that's allowing the Mono project to beef up their Linux implementation of .NET to make it first class, and really a strong competition against JVM on the Linux platform, which means you've got FSharp and .NET high quality across all platforms now. This was a screenshot of where Mono used to be, being the red line, and it's garbage collector, and the blue line's the new improved garbage collector, which you can see is a nice flat line. And with Mono, you're able to run FSharp code on Android, iOS, Linux, Mac, PlayStation, and so forth. So you've got a huge reach, and that's running native code, so really high performance. So hopefully I've sold you at least on the idea of trying FSharp, get those lovely type providers, high performance, and so forth. Thanks, great. And so I'll just give you a few resources that might help you get started. If you're coming from Python, I think you're going to find FSharp very familiar. Maybe a little bit terser in some places, but you've got the kind of white space-based syntax, and it's nice and short and concise, no curly braces. If you're coming from a curly brace language, you may find it a little bit different in the way it looks. Either way, there's a nice library, open source project called the FSharp Coens, which is a set of failing tests. And each time you make one of those tests pass, you learn a new element of the language. And I found this to be the easiest way of getting used to FSharp and finding your way around. Now, literally within about an hour and a half, you'll have cracked the language, which for what you're getting, it's a fairly small investment. And these cones have been used on hundreds of people, and I've seen it take people from nowhere to really just being able to dive in on the code. So I really recommend that as the good starting place. We had a quick look at Hadoop running. There's a whole section on financial calculations within tryfsharp.org. And so once you've passed through the Coens and you want to have a look at some more meaty problems, whether it be data science or machine learning or finance, then there's loads of great examples on that site. In terms of books, there's a huge number of great books these days for FSharp. No problem there. Probably the biggest problem is choosing which one. I'd recommend, if you're coming in new, Programming FSharp's great, from Chris Smith on O'Reilly, and John Harrop's FSharp for Scientists is a fantastic book if you're coming from the maths side. There's a book that Thomas Petracek and I and a number of other authors have been working on, which is available online now and will be available very shortly in hard copy, called FSharp Deep Dives. And what we try to do with that book is look at huge success stories in the FSharp space and have a chapter on each one of them. And there you'll find some really interesting solutions around finance, machine learning, data science, social gaming, and all sorts of other interesting bits. So it's a little bit more fun than the usual Hello World programming book. There's actually a very interesting book on the bottom right there, which is Programming Language Concepts. And that's actually material used in Scandinavian universities for teaching undergraduates, and has material on how to write your own mini-C compiler, garbage collector, lots of lovely programming language concepts like that. So if you're into that, that's a great book too. We have t-shirts. there's no end of things to buy. I guess the other thing that might interest people about FSharp, this is a view over jobs in the UK, and what we can see is that it's sorted by average salary. The functional programming jobs are coming up top, and we can pretty much discount the first two because they don't actually have really any jobs available. But if we look at Scala, FSharp, and Clojure, it's looking pretty good. So hopefully you're sold on that too. If you want to follow the money, that's where it's at. Now, there's a huge variance on those. One of the jobs I saw recently in the FSharp space was for £160,000. So, hopefully you've enjoyed the presentation or interested in going further. Great place to start, easy to find, fsharp.org, and a lot of the a lot of the testimonials that you saw, the quotes that you saw, are available on fsharp.org under testimonials. If you happen to be anywhere near London, please come along to the London Meetup group. And if you want to ask any questions that I don't catch now, just use the Twitter #FSharp alias and somebody will dive in on you pretty quickly. We've got a great community for answering questions. And if you want to hit me directly, my Twitter is ptrelford. Also, please have a look at my blog. Okay, so any questions on that? Thanks. Thank you. Cheers, guys. Well, thank you all. That's great.
Anybody got questions? Just type them up in the chat box, everybody.
Well, I'll fill in while if anybody's thinking of asking questions. What I'll try and do is I'll post up these slides and the code samples, which you just be able to download and get going with immediately afterwards. So the question was any ways to improve the tail recursion of FSharp. So I'll try and answer that, and then maybe I'll have to ask you some questions. So FSharp does support tail recursion, and there is a .NET IL instruction for tail recursion, so it's actually fully supported. Unlike Scala. So Scala has real problems with tail recursion. This is not a problem in our world. So how is the, is that okay with the, are we good with the tail recursion question? Hopefully. Okay,
yep, yes.
Just shout if I didn't answer that. Have I tried Scala? Yeah, yes, I have. Comparatively, it is very similar in many ways to FSharp. It's a functional first language with object-oriented capability as well, which makes it very powerful. I think the syntax is more familiar for people coming from Java with Scala, which is a plus. They're going great strides on the JVM. I think if you're on the JVM, it's a good choice. I don't really have much negative to say about it. It's a great choice. I think I find FSharp has a more opinionated view, and it tends to be a happy path for everything, which may not be something you find in Scala. hopefully that's answered that one. How is the compatibility in the hardware side on NVIDIA boards? There is a number of GPU offerings available for FSharp. I haven't gone deep on those, but I believe if it works for CUDA, we're good. So that's really as far as I can go. That's not really a question on Scala, that's more of a statement. Yeah, so the Scala crowd seems to be quite active in Toronto. Yeah, it's really great to see people picking up functional languages and doing amazing things with them. Yeah, the FSharpers have literally just started an FSharp user group, so they're probably a little bit behind there, but they are there, and there is a community starting to grow in Toronto, so I hope that takes hold. We have been kind of originally dominated in London and New York, but it's really been spreading over the last year, and I think you're seeing us catching up with Scala over 2015. Cool. Oh yeah, the San Francisco user group is really taking off as well. The recommended machine learning APIs for FSharp. There's actually some really nice APIs in .NET. And if you head over to, actually I might just do that. Just quickly use this one. Just put out here. If we pop over to FSharp. There's a machine learning section here, and got a bunch of tutorials. So a core .NET is probably what a lot of people are using. That's a really cute system. Obviously, you can get out to R. One of the projects to watch is one called Phelps, which was demoed at Strangely earlier in the year, and that's a deep belief network written in FSharp, running via LA Cubase on NVIDIA GPU. So ridiculously fast deep belief network running on commodity hardware, which is got to be nice. So I would recommend having a look at that. But there's, as you can see, there's a whole bunch of different libraries. And also, hopefully, you'll see how easy it is to find out about a particular area of FSharp. Just head up to fsharp.org and pop in on one of those menus. So if you're looking at cloud computing and so forth, or math and stats libraries, we've got both open source and some really incredibly good commercial offerings as well. One of my favorites is Stat Factory, which lets you do beautiful matrix calculations, and you can actually just switch the namespace at the top from to .gpu, and it will compile all your matrix calculations on your GPU, which is just really amazing. I would say Stat Factory is probably a good start, but if you're on the open source side, then it's going to be math.net, numerics, in terms of efficient math libraries. Okay, good. There's some really great questions there. I think I've managed to plow through them though. Does anybody else have anything? Or would like me to fill in a bit more on when am I coming to Toronto? That's a great question. I'm hoping to make a little US trip next year. and I'd love, sorry, US, North America trip, and I'd love to make it out to Toronto. Excellent, thank you. Well, it's been fun. It's been a shame I can't hear you, but it's been fun watching and listening about the questions. Xenomorph. Great question. Xenomorph is there's a type provider to Xenomorph, and that gives you typed access, a bit like we've seen to the World Bank, but across a huge range of financial products. The type provider is free. Unfortunately, the connectivity to Xenomorph isn't the usual thing with data. It's always cost money in financial markets. But yeah, that would be great if it was. But I hope that they might be able to do some sort of deal for you to get started. That would be great. But the type provider is pretty awesome if you already have that connectivity. And actually, one of the things I've seen quite a lot of financial institutions do is build type providers to their proprietary formats, just so they can traverse them really easily and do computations. And I guess one of the things I didn't mention, we looked at XML, JSON, and all that sort of CSV. There are lovely type providers to Oracle, SQL Server, Sybase, and all of the databases you could expect. Yeah, there is. The question is, you could go down the KDB path, and there is a KDB project, connectivity with FSharp, and I believe there is a type provider there too. Yeah, KDB is a really good choice in the financial sector. Stephen Taylor is the guy running that, and I think he's quite advanced on it. There should be a talk. He's just moved to Sydney, and I believe he's going to do a talk in the new year, which should be recorded. Cool. So you've seen the project already. Yeah, so he's pretty excited about that. I think we all are. Yeah. I guess probably something thanks. I missed at the beginning. I think when you're looking at language or infrastructure, you want to be looking at the community that you're working with. And I think if you're buying into R, you're getting a wonderful statistical community, similarly with Python and with FSharp. And I think they're all very safe choices for doing financial computing. And I think what you've seen is that FSharp's really winning hands down in terms of performance. But you can still connect to those things easily, which is just great. And that's I think that's just a really important thing to think on when making the next platform decision. One of the great things we have with the FSharp.org is that you can join the financial group or the data science group, and we'll connect you with 50 plus experts in the field via an email mailing list. So you can really just go and hit people who can help you out directly, and obviously you can help them out too, and just have some really interesting discussions and move things on. So great. Oh, cheers, Ian. Yeah. I'd love to get out there. Thanks. Well, thanks for the feedback. It's really, really nice. Great. Okay, well, I might head off to bed in a sec because it's getting late over in this side of the pond. Thanks very much. Good night. Yeah, don't forget if you do have any further questions, just hit me via my blog or on Twitter. Night. Cheers.
Thanks a lot, everyone, for coming out. From Brian here. Thanks again to Phil. This is going to get put up on YouTube in next few hours. Alrighty. Alright, everybody. Have a good night. I'm going to sign her out. Thanks for coming out, everybody.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks a lot for coming out, Jeff. Thanks, everyone, for attending. Really good.
Thanks, bye.
No worries. Thanks for coming on out. Have a good night, everybody.